If you can't find true love, work hard, make money, and enjoy your single life in peace.
The marriage landscape in America is experiencing an earthquake, and the aftershocks are reverberating through courtrooms, social media, and households across the nation. If you thought the battle over reproductive rights was intense, wait until you see what's happening with divorce laws. Something massive is shifting, and millions of women are genuinely terrified about what comes next. Picture this scenario. You wake up tomorrow morning to discover that the fundamental rules governing marriage dissolution have completely changed overnight. The safety net that millions relied on has vanished. The financial protections that seemed permanent are now extinct. This isn't some distant possibility we're discussing here. This transformation is already underway in several states, and the momentum is building rapidly. Florida just fired the opening shot in what many consider a revolution in family law. The state eliminated permanent alimony entirely. Gone. Vanished. The days of receiving spousal support indefinitely after a marriage ends are officially over in the Sunshine State. But that's just the beginning of these sweeping changes. Under Florida's new framework, both the amount and duration of alimony payments are now strictly predetermined based on specific formulas. No more negotiating for extended payments. No more arguing for larger sums based on lifestyle maintenance. The calculations are fixed, the timelines are shorter, and the financial outcomes are far more predictable for the paying spouse. These changes represent a fundamental philosophical shift in how we view marriage, divorce, and financial responsibility after relationships end.
Never be jealous of what God does for somebody else. What God has for you is for you, and He's never going to deliver your bill to somebody else's house.
For decades, the system operated under certain assumptions about dependency, contribution, and post-divorce support obligations. Those assumptions are crumbling before our eyes. But Florida isn't operating in isolation. Republican parties in Texas and Nebraska have officially incorporated a tax on no-fault divorce into their state platforms. This isn't random political posturing or empty campaign rhetoric. These are deliberate policy positions being advanced by major political organizations with real legislative power. No-fault divorce, for those unfamiliar, allows couples to dissolve marriages without proving wrongdoing like adultery or abuse. Either spouse can simply declare the marriage irretrievably broken, and the process moves forward. This system has been the foundation of American family law for generations, making divorce accessible when relationships become genuinely unsalvageable. The statistics surrounding divorce initiation tell a compelling story. Women initiate approximately 70% of all divorce proceedings in the United States. This isn't coincidence or cultural accident. There are complex social, economic, and psychological factors driving this pattern, and any changes to divorce accessibility will disproportionately impact women's ability to exit unhappy or harmful marriages. Critics argue that attacking no-fault divorce represents an attempt to trap women in marriages they desperately want to leave. They see these legislative efforts as part of a broader campaign to restrict women's autonomy and decision-making power over their personal lives. The comparison to reproductive rights battles is intentional and pointed. Supporters counter that current divorce laws create perverse incentives, making it too easy to abandon marriages without serious consideration of consequences. They argue that easier divorce procedures have contributed to family instability and unfair financial outcomes, particularly for men who often face significant alimony and child support obligations while losing access to their children. The political timing of these developments cannot be ignored. Divorce attorneys across the country reported massive spikes in new clients immediately following recent elections. One lawyer documented receiving 14 new cases in just 2 days after election results were announced, nearly triple her normal intake during what's typically the slowest month for family law practices.
Tell them that you like them. If they like you too, that won't scare them away. And if they get scared away and they get avoidant or they kind of distance themselves, you at least know that they don't feel the same way, and then you can move on and find someone who likes you back. It's a win-win either way.
Social media platforms exploded with posts from men claiming their wives served them divorce papers within days of election outcomes becoming clear. Whether driven by political disagreements or fears about future legal changes, something triggered an unprecedented surge in divorce filings nationwide. The proposed changes extend far beyond alimony modifications. Some legislators are advancing bills that would criminalize adultery, making infidelity punishable by jail time. Imagine the implications. In a culture where infidelity rates are already concerning, suddenly making cheating a criminal offense could fundamentally alter how people approach marriage, commitment, and relationship boundaries. These potential criminal penalties for adultery would create entirely new dynamics within marriages. Spouses might find themselves walking on legal minefields, where relationship mistakes could result in imprisonment rather than just emotional consequences and divorce proceedings. Property division rules are also facing scrutiny. The traditional 50-50 split of marital assets might become obsolete under proposed reforms. Instead of automatic equal distribution, new frameworks could tie property division to factors like income contribution, fault determination, or even premarital agreements that weren't previously required. Some proposals suggest that instead of receiving half of marital property, divorcing spouses might need to secure loans against their share, potentially up to $1 million, using their portion as collateral. The spouse with greater financial resources would essentially become a lender to their former partner.
When people can't control you, they will try to control how other people see you. And let them live with whatever delusional narrative they have made up about you inside of their head,
rather than simply transferring assets outright. Child custody arrangements could also face significant modifications. Current proposals suggest that financial capability should determine primary custody arrangements, meaning the parent with greater resources would automatically receive custody along with financial responsibility for child-rearing expenses. Divorce attorneys with decades of experience express shock at gender disparities they observe in family courts. Men seeking alimony often face bias and rarely receive spousal support even when legally entitled. Similarly, fathers frequently struggle to obtain meaningful custody arrangements or fair child support modifications, regardless of their parenting capabilities or involvement. The broader implications extend beyond individual families to society's fundamental understanding of marriage as an institution. If divorce becomes significantly more difficult or financially punitive, marriage rates might decline as people become more cautious about making commitments they cannot easily exit. Alternatively, these changes might strengthen marriages by forcing couples to work harder on relationship problems rather than choosing divorce as a first option. Proponents argue that easier divorce procedures have made marriage disposable, contributing to family breakdown and social instability. The cultural battle lines are clearly drawn. One side sees these changes as necessary corrections to an unfair system that has disadvantaged men and destabilized families. The other side views them as attempts to control women and trap them in potentially dangerous or unfulfilling relationships. What happens next will shape American family law for generations. The stakes couldn't be higher for millions of married couples trying to understand how these changes might affect their futures, their financial security, and their children's well-being. This isn't just policy debate occurring in distant legislative chambers. These are real changes affecting real families, real finances, and real lives. The revolution in divorce law is just beginning, and everyone needs to understand what's coming.